today, the sky is falling, apparently, and much more dangerous rhetoric from the media. A lot more coming right up. Hi, everyone. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this 11th hour flash stream. Thank you guys so much for all that you do, and thank you so much for coming in on your Tuesday. Thank you so much. Hope you guys are doing well out there on your Tuesday. And of course, there's a lot to get to. And of course, the news is just piling on, piling on. And I want to give a shout out to the loyal patrons, Derek C. Williams, Killer Whale Channels, The Definition of Anarchy, Chrysler Imperial H, Little Miss Goth, Let the Truth Be Told, Cold War Jesus, and AZ Infidel. Thank you guys so much for all that you do to support the channel. And shout out to the loyal subscribers as well as the followers on Periscope. So thank you so much and welcome in. If you are new to the channel, thank you so much for coming in. I also encourage those that are new to come in and also take a look at the community tab. I appreciate you so much for all that you do. And we'll start off with a little bit of commentary. And I will tell you the source of the commentary today is going to come from these hearings, the hearings for the SCOTUS nominee, Amy Coney Barrett. And of course, that name is ringing from every corner. And we'll start with a little bit of commentary there, and then we're going to get to a few stories. So not too painful. We'll try not to make it too painful for you. Once again, hope you guys are doing well on your Tuesday, and thank you so much for all that you do and for taking care of the channelytics as you come in. I really appreciate that. Your presence is noted here. Shout out to Anthony Scioli. Thank you so much, Anthony, for coming in. Thank you so much for the thumbs up. I really appreciate it. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you're doing well, Anthony. So we're going to go ahead and dig in today. I mean, I was supposed to be on yesterday, but some things kind of went a little bit beyond control. And so not to worry. There's always more where that came from. So shout out to everybody in the stream. If you're just now joining me. Or even if you're driving by, you're not sure if you're going to come in or not. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So just right off, these hearings are really tough to watch. I didn't watch all of the Kavanaugh hearings, but I mean, of course, we're up to reindeer games, and this is a lot of last minute plays coming out of the media, the fifth wing, or whatever you want to call it, the fifth wing of the media, as along with everything else. So I just want to start out with just a little bit of commentary here, and it's going to be a little bit based around these hearings. However, I'll give you a bit. This is going to be a bit of a real-time review on the commentary, because so far, of course, we've heard from quite a few, but from Senator Feinstein, and Kamala Harris. Those will be the two. We'll talk a little bit about their actual assertions, or whatever you want to lend to them. I'll get into that specifically, but as you notice that I talked about coming in, just entering in, the sky is falling and there's dangerous rhetoric from the media. But when I say that, shout out to everybody in the stream. Hope you guys are doing well today. When I say that, are we dealing with rhetoric that's that much different from 2016? Of course, you've got your pundits talking and everybody's buzzing. about what they're observing, or what their interpretation of what they're observing. And I'm just thinking, is it really that much more dangerous than the 2016 election? I mean, for instance, I wanted to talk about specifically the rhetoric from 2016. Of course, you have your politicians that are at each other's throats. And of course, back in 2016, you had all of the internal fighting, of the internal conflicts that were going on, of course, on the left. And of course, Clinton referred to Americans as a basket of deplorables back in 2016. I mean, I guess if you're a leftist, I mean, she did nothing wrong. I mean, she just alienated millions of the populace. And you have, that's being followed up. Keith Olbermann seems to be doing his part in referring to Trump supporters as maggots and must be prosecuted. So we'll see a little bit, take a closer look at what Olbermann is saying, and the language. I talk about the language being the enemy of the people. I think that's true. And I think we had George Orwell proved that point even beyond, I think even beyond or even before his 1984. So that's kind of where we're getting into. But I just want to start out with just a few comments on what I've observed from these hearings that have started with ACB. I noticed that we kind of got that little acronym going on. So ACB, if you don't know what that means, and then now you do. And at least on this platform, we're going to go with ACB. Shout out to you, Anthony Scioli. And so let's just do a little bit of commentary on that. So for one, on these hearings, of course, it looks like Graham is a chairperson. I mean, I swear, like you've got all these committees, and it just seems, it's a lot. So I think perhaps he was opening with the hearings, or he did much of the introductions. I think he manages this situation on the committee. So for starters, it looks like these are my assertions, and of course, this is you do your fact checking or whatever it is that you do, whatever helps you build on your framework. I always encourage you guys to do that. Fact check here, do whatever you need to do. But, here's my assertion on this. I think that the thing that they're not able to, of course, they will attack her on many things, but her academic record, she's a stellar academic record, apparently. And I think she's even had a few lefties. Maybe it was Noah Feldman. That's like, what is a constitutional scholar, one of their own that they had on the impeachment hearings. I mean, I think he's tipped his hat to her, which I found not to be ironic. But, her academic record, her academic record and her academia record seems to be pretty impeccable. And her family seems to be, the jewel of her eye, from what I can tell. I mean, she's had the support of all of them there, which is pretty excruciating, or it will get excruciating, I would imagine, with the Dems, if I can call them that. I think that's probably the best I can do right now. So I think things are going to get nastier for her, and I think she's aware of that, but I'm not sure if her family will be if they will be there the entire time. I mean, that's a lot to go through for such a range of children, and as nasty as they're going to get. I mean, peace be with them on that. So we're going to keep going here. So, and I'm not giving a full assertion on her, because I think there needs to be enough time. There's, you can't really, you can put a shiny new coat of paint on things, or you can bring in somebody new that's shiny. But I just think that you're not going to get a real sense of of her background or she actually the way she interprets the law versus legislation. And of course, that's one of the things that the left has charged the right with, that they want they want to have they think she's going to be, accusing her of, legislating from the bench, or there's all kinds of things here. But what I'm saying is, of course, this is a developing story, and we'll stay on it. But I'm just saying, just for instance, we had Feinstein making, they've all taken the time along with the media. They are working in tandem. Some people call it lockstep, whatever you want to call it. Shout out to you, Rowena Lady. Thank you so much for the thumbs up. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming in. It's nice to see you. And Feinstein took quite a bit of time today to recognize the family, the children, and even her sisters and her brother that were there. And I'm just thinking, okay, what exactly are you trying to do? Are you going to come back around and try to connect some dots for us? But she did, and it was very poorly done. But I think it was almost, she's trying to establish, I don't know, she's just trying to establish a personable quality, and then come back around to only to banter her on, of course, whether she's going to overturn Roe v. Wade. And that seems to be, that's their biggest concern. And I've known that for a while. I think most people can acknowledge that that's their biggest concern. They throw out, of course, and then they weaponize the ACA, a bill in which, a bill in which not even, it was okay. Of course, it was without, that was not a flawless deal. And I even remember going back to the time at the end of his presidency, where either they were saying, oh, well, Obama wanted Clinton in to preserve his legacy, they hitched that to his legacy. Is that really what it was? Because if something's covering 60 to 100 million people, that's still not, it's still not it wasn't a perfect program. So it actually, to me, I know a lot of people, either they weren't eligible or either they were dropped as soon as many people lost money, even, and not to mention the doctors themselves, they lost work. Many people weren't eligible for it, or the premiums were super, super high. Like the marketplace, I'm like, my gosh, how different is this marketplace than a private marketplace? I mean, this is real. We're doing real life here. That was a part. I think I added that into my own walkaway story, because one of the main things they said was that you could actually keep the doctor, but that was the first thing I lost. The thing that they said you could keep, and this was Obama saying that, the first thing he said that you could keep was the first thing you got. Because once you got that letter from that provider, then you automatically, they're, look, we're not accepting that. We're not accepting this. We will no longer be accepting this. So unless you got a great job or an upgrade or a promotion or move to another, you're moving on to another place in life where you had an opportunity that you didn't have to use that, then you ended up with something else. So I just really, for them to keep trying to tout that, it was an attempt at something that, no, it didn't work. It didn't work out. I mean, it just didn't. I mean, some people were able to get it, and some people weren't. But to say that, oh, well, he's just trying to pick apart everything he did, well, that's pretty much of a narrow view. And that's a part of his racism. Okay. That's a part of that too. You gotta keep that in the cycle, keep that in the wash, right? Never too far from that. So we'll move on here just a bit. Thanks so much for coming in. And then, of course, Feinstein also, she went on asking about rulings, and she even tied her to the late Justice Scalia. Just basically, if you, I'm paraphrasing, if you identify with this person, or this person was a bit of a mentor, or then you must be, you must be going in that same direction. And I think she not only deflected well, but I think she pretty much kind of uppercut them when she responded that she would be a pundit. I'm paraphrasing here, that she'd be a pundit if she didn't follow the methodology or the process of the law. So you think she's going to sit here on a hearing and circumvent all of these things so that you can have something else to run out to the media and twist and turn? So I'm just thinking, okay, nobody knows everything about, nobody can get a real, she cannot establish everything in these hearings, but they're on the attack. And I think that she's holding her own very well so far. So we'll see what happens. Do I have a notion of how conservative this woman is, or do I don't know everything, but I do know that's what the left is concerned with. That's what their biggest concern is. To me, if you had to rank and file, if you had to file, rank it, I would say that would be the left's number one concern. These feminists, the progressives, the feminists, the progressives, that is their number one concern. And after that, I think the Affordable Care Act. So, of course, you guys get the culture here by now. Of course, you've got to have a crisis. They've got to save the day. You got to save the day. In fact, I even heard Harris throw it back during the debate about the automobile. Oh, well, he saved. Da, 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 da. Well, you guys are the savior for everyone, right? Is there ever a point in which there's not something that needs to be saved, that you've got some kind of magic wand for, that you don't have is there a magic wand that we don't have anything for, that your party doesn't have anything for? It's always, you need us. We're your only friends. No matter what we do to you, no matter how well-intentioned we are, you need us. And to me, that is, we talked a little bit about victimhood on here, but that's also a psychological kind of, I think, I'm not a psychologist by any stretch, I'm not professing to be one, but I think that's also, you've got the same kind of, a bit of the Stockholm syndrome, that even though we do damaging things, we do transgenerational damage to you and groups of people, but you always need us. Without us, I mean, who would you be? How will you survive? I mean, yeah, so I'm going to round out my opening statement really shortly here. So, and the final thing that I think is kind of getting lost is that Feinstein actually asked her about gun ownership. Did she own a gun? And she cited gun violence, and these are all, like I said, these are things that are at the top of their list. We've talked about the HR 5771 and those extreme gun laws that they want to pull out. You got a crisis, and you gotta get the guns. I mean, at any moment now, I'm surprised he may be doing it already. Have you guys seen any commercials with Beto? Because that's that's their boy. That's their boy for the gun grab. I mean, at least that's what Joe Biden said on the stage, or on one of his own rallies. So I really appreciate you guys so much for coming in. Thank you so much for all that you do. So I'm sure that'll continue to go. They'll continue to grill and drill And so go ahead and round this one out. So of course, I think Harris's platform that she was using, obviously a Zoom call, and I thought was pretty incomprehensible, and it was without structure. She was all over the place, but at least her body language was a bit less indignant and vile than that debate, because at least she was being still. She was, it was so distracting to watch her on that debate. And it was just like it was even two different people. It's two totally emotional, totally highly reactive on the debate. And then she goes in there she goes in for the hearings, and she's just doing her usual bit. She's finger pointing. Oh, this is rush. This is a sham. We should be working. Everybody's yelling about COVID, and we're gonna get to your favorite speaker in just a second, because I think there's something on the docket for her too. There's something on the docket for her. So not to worry, we'll get to her. And so so she's trying to discredit the whole process, and of course attack the administration. I just don't see that when you walk away from a hearing or a debate with Harris. I'm just thinking, what did you get from that? I mean, you just honestly, it's just very disrespectful the way this is done. It's just, I see them, they're just taking shots at this nominee. That's all they're doing. Shout out to everybody in the stream. So we're going to move right on. I really appreciate you guys for coming in on the 11th hour. So let's go into our first story here. So what we're going to do is we're going to move on from the commentary there. We're going to go right into the first story that we have. And I thought, why not? Why not we deal with Life News? And apparently Life News has an assertion that about Barrett. So I'm going to be sharing that with you guys on the screen. Thank you guys so much once again for coming in. So our top stories, of course, will include Coney Barrett, Pelosi, the Olbermann and his attack on the Trump supporters, UNC Asheville and the BLM conflict, and we'll have a bit of an opinion piece. And then we'll round up for your Tuesday. Thank you guys so much for coming in. So we'll go to the actual Coney Barrett story and what Life News, because I think Life News is a huge supporter. Shout out to Unique View. Thank you so much for coming in. Thanks so much, guys, for coming in and taking care of the Channelytics. I really appreciate it. I really do. So I'm going to be sharing that screen with you. So we're going to go over to Life News. Hope you guys are doing well. Okay, give me just 1 second here. Sorry. Hope you guys are hanging in there and staying cool, or getting that fresh, that crispy air for the fall. All right. All right. So what we're going to go with here, we're going to go with Amy Coney Barrett hints, or ACB hints, that Roe v. Wade could be overturned. So we're going to go with that. Hope you guys are doing well out there. Thanks. A little bit of issue here, but looks like we're there now. Hope you guys are doing well. All right, so finally here. So this is Amy Coney Barrett hints that Roe v. Wade could be overturned. And this is written by Micaiah Bilger. Shout out to everybody in the stream. Nothing like some technical issues to throw you in the fire on your Tuesday. So, all right, guys, thanks so much. And so what we have here is lifenews.com. So I'm going to jump in and out of here pretty quickly, and you'll hear just a clip from her. But this kind of gives you a cap on some real time on what we witnessed earlier today. It talks about the Democrat U.S. Senator Feinstein pressed the Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett about her views on abortion Tuesday during the second day of her confirmation hearing before the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee. The leftist news outlet Alternet criticized Barrett for, quote, refusing to say if she thinks Roe v. Wade should be overturned, end quote, but hinting that the infamous abortion ruling very well may be. Feinstein, a pro-abortion Democrat, questioned Barrett repeatedly on the issue, asking if she agrees with the late Justice Antonin Scalia that Roe was, quote, wrongly decided, end quote. That comes from the Business Insider reports. Barrett served as a clerk for Scalia, and she is President Donald Trump's choice to fill the seat of the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, an idol of abortion activist who died in September. If confirmed by the U.S. Senate, Barrett would solidify a strong 6-3 conservative majority on the high court. Democrats and their allies in the abortion industry have been attacking Barrett for being a conservative, pro-life Catholic. During her confirmation to the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals in 2017, Feinstein told Barrett that the, quote, dogma lives loudly within you. Quote, that the dogma lives loudly within you, end quote. On Tuesday, Feinstein began her questioning more civilly by praising Barrett and her family, which includes 7 children. However, she quickly turned to the questions about the Supreme Court rulings on abortion, including Roe and Planned Parenthood versus Casey. Quote, do you agree with Justice Scalia's view that Roe was wrongly decided? Feinstein asked. All right, so this is a quote from her. I'm going to let you guys hear it for yourselves. See, I went through it all so you didn't have to. So here we go. We're going to hear from her right now. You're too kind, crazy chick Sheena. Thank you so much for coming in. So I'm going to go ahead and play it for you guys so you can hear the clip for yourselves. All right, so here we are.
So on something that is really a major cause with major effect on over half of the population of this country, who are women, after all. It's distressing not to get a straight answer. So let me try again. Do you agree with Justice Scalia's view that Roe was wrongly decided?
Senator, I completely understand why you are asking the question, but again, I can't pre-commit or say, yes, I'm going in with some agenda, because I'm not. I don't have any agenda. I have no agenda to try to overrule Casey. I have an agenda to stick to the rule of law and decide cases as they come.
Well, as a person, I don't know if you'll answer this one either. Do you agree with Justice Scalia's view that Roe can and should be overturned by the Supreme Court?
Well, I think my answer is the same, because, that's a case that's litigated. It could, its contours could come up again. In fact, do come up. They came up last term before the court. So I think, what the Casey standard is, and it's a contentious issue, which is, I know, one reason why it would be comforting to you to have an answer. But I can't express views on cases or pre-commit to approaching a case any particular way.
Well, that makes it difficult for me, and I think for other women also on this committee.
Thank you guys so much for tuning into this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. So there you had the framing, and you had the response. So what you didn't have was you didn't have her Feinstein framing it with patronizing or even her giving the positive nod towards the family, which I thought it was pointless, because she wasted no time. So I think that's very well treated in the wording here. So that's what you have. So, yeah, of course, we're going to continue to see these hearings, and I will do my best to extract the meat and bring you just the goods, bring you just what you need, and leave as much of the fluff out. But I mentioned the family specifically because they've been in the media, and Feinstein, made it a point to mention them in an attempt to. I'm not sure, she happens to be a woman, so I guess that was her giving her credit for being. Well, you're a woman, so you have to know how important this is if this is overturned. So there you are. So there you go. You can see here it talks about she expressed the frustration with Barrett, saying that it was distressing not to get a straight answer. Imagine that, a straight answer. What about, other things? So, of course, this one goes on to talk about during another line of questioning from the Republican committee chair, Lindsey Graham, Barrett said she will not just be another Scalia, CNN reports. Quote, if I'm confirmed, you would not be getting Justice Scalia. You would be getting Justice Barrett, end quote, Barrett said. Quote, and that's so because originalists don't always agree, end quote. So, here's your perspective coming from the pro-lifers. The pro-life leaders hope that Barrett will help to restore basic human rights for unborn babies and allow states to begin protecting them again. Now, Barrett is on the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals. Like Scalia, she has been described as a, quote, originalist, end quote, judge. Though her judicial rulings on abortion are few, she did rule in support of 2 Indiana pro-life laws during her time on the Seventh Circuit. So that's good to know, right? Maybe you guys agree, maybe not. But at least you can see you're getting a synopsis, or you're getting a little bit of the landscaping for for her record, what she's done. And I'm surprised the way the way Feinstein started. She wasn't going to start cross-examining her on some of her previous. See, this is the thing. She's on trial for morality and religion, it seems. But they really only want to know one. They only want to know 1 or 2 things. And it's brutal. It seems to be pretty grilling. So we'll keep going here. And so she signed a letter in 2006 that described abortion as, quote, barbaric, end quote, and called for an end to Roe v. Wade. She also was a member of the Notre Dame University Faculty for Life group from 2010 to 2016, and she received an award from the Thomas More Society, a pro-life Catholic legal group, in 2016. And it looks like here they give you more statements that she made. So we'll go into this a little bit more later. So let's just finish. We'll round this one out. So additionally, she's made several statements about the value of babies in the womb. According to Law and Crime, Barrett signed a public letter in 2015 that emphasized that, quote, the value of human life from conception to natural death, end quote. She also said she believes that life begins at conception. The Senate Judiciary Committee began its hearing to confirm her Monday. The Republicans narrowly control the U.S. Senate, and pro-life leaders have strong hopes that they will confirm Barrett. However, of course, Democrat Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said his party will not, quote, supply quorum, end quote, for votes in the Senate as a way to try and block her confirmation. So it looks like a recent Consult Politico poll found Americans support Barrett's confirmation by a double-digit margin. So, of course, we'll continue to follow this story. I thank you guys so much for tuning in. It's a bit of an awkward hour, I know, to do news, but we'll keep going. And now we'll move on to our next story, which is going to involve Pelosi, and that's going to come from our friends at the TNA. Thank you guys so much for all that you do, for coming around. I really appreciate you and your presence and all your support. Now, the JBS, this segment of our show, will be brought to you by our good friends at the John Birch Society. Less government, more responsibility, and with God's help, a better world. The JBS is a constitutional and educational organization that's been around for over 60 years, dedicated to upholding and defending the Constitution and working to preserve our freedoms and liberties in this country. The JBS does not endorse any political party or candidates. Rather, it focuses on the education, training, and development of the American voters. So without further ado, we will move on to our piece and our segment from the JBS. I hope you guys are doing well out there. Hope you're staying cool, or I hope you're getting that, getting your fire pits ready for, I don't know, what can I say, a glass of wine or something after a glass of wine in the afternoons. Maybe you guys are starting to see some inkling of fall back east, maybe. We'll see. So we're going to hop on over to our story with Nancy Pelosi. Shout out to everybody in the stream. Shout out to Anthony Scioli, Rowena Light, and shout out to Unique View and Crazy Chick Sheena. Thank you so much for coming in. All right, so I'm going to take you guys over to the TNA, and you would be interested to know there's a House resolution on the floor. There's a House resolution on the floor introduced to remove Pelosi. Imagine that. A little bit of her projection coming back at her. Okay, so according to this, what you see before you is from the New American, written by Bob Adelman. House resolution introduced to remove Pelosi. You know, I did see this was her on her, one of her, she's a Thursday press conference every week, her weekly press conference. And it was just crazy maker. It was a show. However, Representative Doug Collins, Republican of Georgia, tweeted on Sunday that House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, quote, does not have the mental fitness to serve as speaker, end quote. He followed that up with another tweet on Monday, quote, Nancy Pelosi's unwillingness to abide by the Constitution combined with her recent actions call into question her own mental fitness, end quote. On Monday, he introduced a resolution to remove Pelosi from office, reviewing some of her, quote, recent actions. So I will list them if I may. The Speaker has spent the majority of the House of Representatives' time pursuing baseless and fruitless investigations. On October 31st, 2019, Speaker Nancy Pelosi oversaw the first party line vote to begin an impeachment inquiry into a president in the history of our country. She ripped up the State of the Union speech before the American people. She visited a shuttered hair salon in San Francisco where she received a blowout without wearing a mask in violation of San Francisco's laws, and then cast blame on the salon's owner for setting her up. And she appeared confused in an interview on ABC News and exhibited bizarre behavior, blurting out randomly, "Good morning, Sunday morning." So we'll go on here. The event most likely to have galvanized Collins' resolution to remove the speaker was her move on Friday to create a commission that could investigate a president's fitness for office under the 25th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. All right, so we're going into Section 4 of that amendment says that, quote, whenever the vice president and a majority of either the principal officers of the executive departments or of such other body as Congress may transmit their written declaration that the president is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, the vice president shall immediately assume the powers and duties of the office acting president, end quote. All right. That other body, that quote, other body, end quote, under Pelosi's plan would consist of 16 members, half appointed by the Democratic leadership and the other half by the Republican leadership, would then appoint a 17th member. They would be doctors and psychiatrists and, quote, former high-ranking executive branch officers, end quote. And announcing the plan, Pelosi said it had nothing to do with the present president. Quote, this legislation applies to future presidents, but we are reminded of the necessity of action by the health of the current president, end quote. The current president took umbrage at Pelosi's insinuation, tweeting, quote, crazy Nancy is the one who should be under observation. They don't call her crazy for nothing, end quote. Wall Street Journal editorialized that such a committee, quote, would make the 25th Amendment a weapon for political scheming and abuse. When opposing parties control Congress and the White House, there would be pressure for members to abuse medical judgment for partisan ends, end quote. Senator Kelly Loeffler of Georgia Republican agreed with the Journal criticizing Pelosi for, quote, weaponization of the 25th Amendment in an attempt to attack President Donald John Trump, adding Speaker Pelosi's announcement is just her latest scheme to attack the president. And from the day the president was sworn in, Pelosi has tried to overturn the results of the 2016 election. From the Russia collusion hoax to the sham impeachment and now the 25th Amendment farce, Pelosi has disgraced the office of the Speaker in a desperate attempt to rig the system and seize power. If she's still serious about holding office, she should put a mask on, hit the salon, and respect the election results when Donald Trump is reelected for 4 more years. Now, that came from Senator Kelly Loeffler of Georgia. So, yeah, but, is she likely to do that? No. So we're all dealing with this bit of volley kind of motion going on. Shout out to everybody in the stream. I'm going to come up for a little bit of air. Thank you guys so much for all that you do. Shout out to AZ Infidel. Thank you guys so much for coming in. Shout out to Spirit of Liberty. Nice to see you. Shout out to The Definition. How are you doing? We're just polita digging. Not making up words here. We're just digging around here. So, things, kind of vanilla, but it is what it is. So there you go. You got your games, your reindeer games, your 25th Amendment, games. And who knows what this thing is going to turn out like. It's just, like I said, it's just we're piling on every day. So this one kind of rounds out, whereas the Speaker of the House of Representatives intends to introduce legislation creating a commission on presidential capacity to discharge the powers and duties of the office for the purposes of removing President Donald J. Trump from office under Section 4 of the 25th Amendment. Whereas the Speaker of the House of Representatives has failed to put forward a just cause for invoking the 25th Amendment, and whereas the proposed action by the Speaker of the House of Representatives are an unprecedented attempt to remove a duly elected president. Resolved, that the Senate disapproves of the statements and actions of the Speaker of the House of Representatives and the Democratic Caucus of the House of Representatives for politicizing the 25th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. So we'll see what happens. What was the last time? Louis Gohmert put a resolution on the floor for them to basically no longer be the Democrat Party or cancel themselves since they were charging everybody else with their crimes, which that's what they say. If you're trying to find out what they've done, just find out, look at what they're accusing the other person of done. In this case, it will be Donald Trump. Shout out to everybody in the stream. Thank you guys so much for coming in. Now we're going to get on to a little bit of rhetoric. What I want to say, I've talked about this in the opening. Back in 2016, you heard about are you guys familiar with the basket of deplorables comment that came from good old Clinton? And I'm interested. Okay. So I'm just going to take just a second here, and then we're going to get on to good old Keith Olbermann. I have some sound bites and some imagery for you on that. But if I'm not, there seems to be a plurality out there on the emails that they're going to be released. I'm going to be honest. I don't care about the email so much. If it's not something that's going to be, the emails themselves, they cannot arrest anyone or they cannot prosecute anyone. So without some teeth behind these emails, I don't really know. And if it's to even happen, most people don't even think that there's going to be any actual, they're going to continue to operate with impunity. You guys have heard that she could very well end up being a part of Biden's cabinet. Clinton could be. So you guys need to recognize what you're getting. What you're getting. This is, I'm telling you, this is a time you got to journal and write everything, put everything down, because this is staggering. So what we're going to do is we're going to move on. We're going to move on to our next segment, which involves Olbermann and his rhetoric. which is kind of dangerous the way, he puts it out there, but who knows? Referring to Trump supporters as maggots. But what do you got on the left? They want you thrown out or prosecuted or destroyed, and then they want to take you to trial on the right. So we'll see where we wind up. I just don't know, if with the amount of impunity that we've seen, I don't know what's going to happen, emails or not. All right. Shout out to everybody in the stream. Hope you guys are doing well on your Tuesday. Let me just read a few comments here and then we'll flash the stream. Shout out to the definition, Spirit of Liberty. It says, we really need term limits on Congress. That's how you fix all of this. I say a max of 4 terms for Congress people. Hi, AZ. And Spirit says, and I say I'm an advocate for age limits to 60 years old, and that's it. All right. And he also says you can't be 80 plus years old in Congress. There's something inherently wrong with that. Yikes. Shout out to you. AZ says Oberman is insane. I'm a little bit lagging on that, but we're going to just have a look at it really quickly. And I'm going to be seeing this with you guys for the first time as well. Like, I don't watch these pundits. I don't watch these technocrats. I don't watch these little tyrants. All right. So what you see before you, this is coming from Breitbart. Keith Olbermann, the Trump supporters are, quote, maggots, must be prosecuted. All right. Look at that face. All right. So this apparently is written by Thomas D. Williams. It's a former ESPN. This is the former ESPN host, Keith Olbermann, who lashed out at Trump supporters Friday night, calling for the prosecution and conviction of all those connected with the president. All right. So we're going to keep going here with just a few. Actually, we'll just hear from him. How about that? We'll just hear from him and we'll go with that.
Trump can be.
All right. I'm going to supersize this for you. So you got a little bit of a rant coming at you. Thank you guys so much for coming in on your Tuesday.
Be and must be expunged. The hate he has triggered, the Pandora's box he has opened, they will not be so easily destroyed. So let us brace ourselves. The task is twofold. The terrorist Trump must be defeated, must be destroyed, must be devoured at the ballot box. And then he and his enablers and his supporters and his collaborators and the Mike Lees and the William Barrs and the Sean Hannitys and the Mike Pences and the Rudy Giulianis and the Kyle Rittenhouses and the Amy Coney Barretts must be prosecuted and convicted and removed from our society while we try to rebuild it and to rebuild the world Trump has nearly destroyed by turning it over to a virus. Remember it, even as we dream of a return to reality and safety and the country for which our forefathers died, that the fight is not just to win an election, but to win it by enough to chase, at least for a moment, Trump and the maggots off the stage, and then try to clean up what they left. Remember it, even though to remember it means remembering that the fight does not end November 3rd, but in many ways will only begin that day.
Shout out to everybody in the stream. So, that was the first time I had seen that actual clip. I mean, I've heard of it, of course, but it seems to be, it's just, are you acting right now? And to me, it's very, most of these people are they're inciting violence. for people that are just glued to the tube and sucking everything up like a vacuum cleaner, they're just, they're walking time bombs. And then they'll blame the media for it. The people that are sucking it up, they'll blame the media for it. And it'll be, to me, it'll be a great irresponsibility, the recklessness that they have that with their platforms, or not with their platforms, with their networks. I mean, this guy sounds like he could have been a propaganda arm, a Nazi propaganda arm. It's all projection. It's all projection. He's talking about real people, real people's lives. Joseph Goebbels, exactly. See, exactly. That was Hitler's guy, right, for the propaganda ministry. And that looks like exactly where Oberman belongs. He took a page out of that book. So I'm telling you, but you can see that they're kind of priming. They are priming it beyond the box. They're beyond the third. And so, yeah, that's what they're being primed. They're priming it up. But see, this is another part of my statement that I wanted to talk about earlier. But do you see? The question was, I was saying, is this rhetoric more dangerous than the 2016 election? I think it's much more dangerous. I really do. Because to me, when it comes down to it, does the left have, the question is, if there is chaos and confusion, weeks, months on hand, with and then, or either somebody says, oh, I'm going to self-declare myself as the winner of this election, and what are they going to do then? What are they going to, who's going to have the loyalty of the US military, or who's going to have the loyalty? Are they going to have each other removed? I mean, how is that going to work? There is no precedence for what we're seeing right now. So who has the loyalty? Are they going to peacefully let this be decided if it makes it to court? Are they going to, without the confirmation of the ACB? Then I think that's, the chances are much, it's a high risk even with that. So shout out to everybody in the stream. Let me wrap that one up, and I'll have a couple more for you. Appreciate you guys so much for coming in on the 11th hour. Thank you so much. So we'll round that one out. So there you have, he was all animated, and so this is the kind of rhetoric that you're getting. So apparently, according to this, on October 7th, Olbermann announced he was leaving ESPN to devote himself full time to political commentaries. In past comments, Olbermann has called Trump a, quote, pig who is worse than Osama bin Laden, while constantly demanding Trump's impeachment from the moment he became president. So there again, that whole dehumanizing. See, this is very much, I've talked about, on tyranny lessons. I mean, we had the 20-something lessons on tyranny from Tim, the favorite author that I go, the lessons on tyranny. This is, it's all there. Shout out to everybody in the stream. Thank you guys so much for coming around. I really appreciate it. And we're going to move on to our next segment. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a gander, if you will, at the UNC Asheville. Looks like they've had a bit of a run-in with the UNC Asheville campus lockdown occurred. And that's going to come from the Hill. So let's take you right on over there. How are you guys doing out there? Hope you're doing well. Thank you guys so much for taking care with the Channelytics. I apologize for yesterday. Hope you guys are doing well. So this comes from the Hill. All right. So this is apparently UNC Asheville campus locked down after threats about the BLM mural. Shout out to everybody in the stream. All right, so this is what you get here. So I'm going to play a little bit of this. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm going to share the screen with you. Shout out to the loyal patrons. Thank you guys so much for all you do. Shout out to AZ Infidel. Shout out to Derek C. Williams, Killer Whale Channels, Definition of Anarchy, Chrysler Imperial H, Let the Truth Be Told, AZ Infidel, and Cold War Jesus. So we're going to go ahead and have a look at this. Hope you guys are doing well out there. I'm buffering a little bit. It's like it wants to load an ad, but we don't really. So maybe we'll move past this one, and then we'll come back to the video. Let's see. All right, so this is what we have here. This is from the University of North Carolina. UNC Asheville locked down its campus on Friday after the school said multiple offices received threatening emails demanding the removal of a Black Lives Matter mural. The UNC Asheville Chancellor Nancy J. Cable said over the weekend that a, quote, shelter in place, end quote, order was issued at the campus on early Friday after the school was targeted, quote, for having a Black Lives Matter mural on its campus, end quote. Quote, as all of us know, there are those that see our commitment to racial justice, our support for our students of color, our intention to raise awareness of history and to reject the ongoing violence against Black and other people of color in this country, so problematic as to threaten violence against us, end quote, she said in a campus alert. Quote, we want to recognize that this is indeed difficult for us all and that this is particularly challenging and stressful for our student leaders who created the Black Lives Matter mural and those who have actively and in many cases publicly vocalize their support for Black Lives Matter activities and those whose identities are linked to this work. It is clear that the emotional toil of the days like yesterday have had and will continue to have a differential impact on members of our community, end quote, Cable said. Quote, we are working to create opportunities for all of us to process these events and to move forward, including actions that are focused on supporting all of our students, including the particular needs of our Black and brown students in this moment, end quote, she continued. According to the Blue Banner, a student-run newspaper at the school, the Black Lives Matter mural had been painted on campus by students earlier this month. The mural reportedly went up during the school's, quote, Students' Rights Week, end quote. Cable said on Saturday that the shelter in place order was lifted on Friday, quote, in consultation with the federal, state, and local law enforcement authorities, end quote. All right, the investigation related to the communication we received remains ongoing with federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies, and we will provide updates as additional information is available and appropriate to share, end quote, she said in the message to students, staff, and faculty. She also called the campus to, quote, be on the lookout, end quote, in the coming days for more information as the school works, quote, to deploy the best supportive strategies possible to manage this moment, its implications and impact, end quote. So I'm going to make a comment on what on that in just a second here. Let me see what's happening there. Shout out to everybody in the stream. So here we go. Let's play it. Let's see if it wants to play.
App-based drivers strongly support Prop 22 because it protects the flexibility they need.
I have a 9 to 5.
I'm a busy single mom, recently retired.
Oops. Sorry, guys. Looks like we got a bit of a something we weren't asking for.
App-based driving works for my family.
Being an independent contractor works for me.
It works for my family.
By 4-to-1, app-based drivers want to stay independent contractors.
That's why we need Prop 22
Prop 22 protects our ability to drive on our own schedule.
as independent contractors.
Join me and hundreds of thousands of drivers in voting yes.
Yes.
Yes, on Prop 22.
The University of North Carolina, Asheville, locked down its campus on Friday after the school said multiple offices received threatening emails demanding the removal of a Black Lives Matter mural. UNC Asheville Chancellor Nancy J. Cable said over the weekend that a quote shelter-in-place order was issued at the campus on early Friday after the school was targeted, quote, for having a Black Lives Matter mural on its campus.
Okay, so that's the gist of that. So I thought there was actually more interviews that they had there, but as you can see, so you got, to me, there's two things going on here when it comes to BLM. On one hand, well, not BLM. When it comes to everything that's been going on, you've got, when I say this is not coming from a victimhood mentality by any stretch. What I'm saying is you got two extremes. On one extreme, you've got the HBCUs, which have, in my opinion, have turned into a place of lab rats. And on the second hand, you've got BLM mural action at the liberal campuses. So you can see there's a huge, there's just so much to be filled in between all of that. It's absolutely staggering. It's all detrimental, is what I'm saying, to the Black community to have these dichotomies going on. And to me, you know, I don't know where, if you're looking for leadership, you're in no man's land. You may not be in no man's land, but you can see it from here. So where is this all going? Where is it all going? I mean, these times, these examples, these pockets, these little enclaves of what's going on these college campuses, it's your gateway. It's your view into all of the confluence and everything that's going on, all the influence that everybody wants. Everybody wants a piece of the Black community for their pet projects, and it's absolutely, it's gut-wrenching to me. It's gut-wrenching. You got propaganda on one end and you're a lab rat on the other end. How can you win? How can you? So you got, the pandemic is when I'm talking about that situation at the HBCUs, some of them right now in Chicago. That's what I'm talking about. You got pet projects, you've got, you might say the home base, these liberal colleges are home base for progressives and these pet projects. But when they come to life, where do they go? They take them to the HBCU. They take them to the HBCU. And this is, I'm very, this whole vaccine thing, Gates already targeted West Africa. And now we've got our own version of it here. So I'm telling you, it's really, and you're probably going to see some more. I told you guys they're throwing cash at people to do these trials. And that's actually going to bring us to another story, but we'll get to that in just a second. But shout out to everybody in the stream. Thank you guys so much for coming in. It's just, I'm just saying, you got to wake up to the con at some point. Wake up to the con and run. Shout out to everybody in the stream. I thank you guys so much for coming in. Thank you so much for coming in. So, what we also have is we do have a bit of an opinion piece, which is something that I don't normally do. We'll do the opinion piece, and then we'll also do. It looks like we've got another trial that has come to a screeching halt. Hope you guys are doing well out there. You guys are the best, and I appreciate you guys for all of your support and all the time that you invest here on Black Spring with Autumn. As I said before, I'm going to roll out a few things to come, a few things in the future. Thank you guys so much for coming in. So what we'll do first, we're going to go with the Eli Lilly suspends the COVID-19 antibody therapy trial over, quote, potential safety concerns. Now that's going to come from our zero hedge source there. And then we will do the opinion piece. And then I will bid you guys a great evening and a great afternoon wherever you are in the world. Thank you guys so much for coming in. Shout out to everybody, the loyal patrons, the subscribers, and the followers on Periscope. All right, so what you see before you, once again, is the Eli Lilly suspends COVID-19 antibody therapy trial over, quote, potential safety concern. Now, this is written by Tyler Durden, barely a week after applying for emergency use from the FDA for one of its Le COVID-19 antibody therapeutics. It appears trials for one of the Eli Lilly's therapeutic drugs focused on the virus Eli Lilly is working on, more than just one, have been paused. News on the trial was broken by a doctor on Twitter before it was swiftly confirmed by several media organizations. So here you have from Brief 19, your daily roundup of SARS-CoV-2. Brief19.com has learned that the ACTIV-3 trial testing Eli Lilly's monoclonal antibody LY-CoV555 has been paused. Trial tests the antibody plus remdesivir versus remdesivir alone. President Trump received similar treatment. Okay, so this is the brief, the daily review of the research and policy. So I can drop that link for you guys. Actually, we have a clip for you. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Dr. Dan, we got news this morning that Eli.
Hang on just a second. A little buffering there. Something strange.
Forming the police.
Okay, looks like we got a commercial for you. So we'll finish the commercial.
Prop 20.
And we'll finish the commercial and then we will play that for you. I thank you guys so much. So, we've got about 9, it looks like about 9 pharma companies that are working on this situation. So here we go. Hopefully.
Eli Lilly will be
Not another one.
seeking an emergency use authorization with the Food and Drug Administration.
A little buffering here. Oops. Sorry, guys.
For its antibody treatment. What do you think about antibody treatments? How effective are they against COVID?
Well, we're learning a lot. Monoclonal antibodies have a track record. In my background, when I was advisor to the FDA on some of these things, at least when it comes to the medical countermeasures enterprise, monoclonal antibodies are very exciting. We're still learning a lot about them, but they are showing some effectiveness in anecdotal cases, instances where they're using Ebola and and other types of diseases, and even other disease processes that we know actually common in the world. Monoclonal antibodies have been useful. Now, it is yet to be seen as we get more data how effective that is, but it is definitely an exciting part of our therapy and our armamentarium. It is not a cure-all, but it is one of the things to help augment our response to protecting people.
Dr. Dan, thank you for joining us today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, guys. So what you can see there is, I don't know if that scares you or if that makes you more excited. I'm not a scientist or a biologist by any stretch, but when somebody says, I don't think, to me in an interview like this, when you talk about what's something, when you mention something that invokes excitement, you're still not really giving you're not even offering a clinical definition as to exactly what is the monoclonal figure that you're excited about or that you're describing. So you have to offer people as they say, the science, because I think as many people, they're using science as, shout out to the Lockhart perspective, the science is being touted almost as a religion. So if we don't believe in this, then we need to be probably expunged, and as they say, or whatever. We're not praising, or we're not looking to science or all the answers, or we're not saying we're not saying that science can't help things, but you're going to be demonized or outcast if you're not if you don't appear to be dealing with the science. I mean, it's everybody's so scientific, telling everybody else they're not scientific. It's amazing what's happened. However, this before you says is a breaking research briefing. I probably put this in the stream, or I put the link there for you at least. So the breaking research briefing, and that talks about the monoclonal antibody trial halted for safety concern. So what is the monoclonal antibody? That's, to me, I was waiting to hear that question. What is that? Is it something that you can trust? If it's something that they used on Trump, does that mean everybody's going to want that? I mean, are they trying to give it? Did they use him for that to give it credibility? Did they use that for the ethos of the science? I mean, come on. I'm really I'm telling you, it's really aggravating the way these things are being laid out. Shout out to everybody in the stream. Shout out to everybody. Hi, it's Right Wing Angel. Thank you so much for coming in. Shout out to you guys. Let's see. All right. So what we have, Lilly confirms at Jeremy Faust report that one of the trials evaluating its antibody drug for the #pandemic has paused the enrollment. Okay, so we're going to finish this one out. Going back to, per the New York Times report, the government-sponsored clinical trial has been paused because of a, quote, potential safety concern, end quote. The report cited emails that government officials sent on Tuesday to researchers at testing sites, which the company confirmed. The trial was designed to test the benefits of the therapy on hundreds of people already infected with the virus. The company did not say how many volunteers were sick or any details about their illness. Eli said in a statement that the independent monitoring board recommended the pause, unlike the J&J pause announced last night, which was undertaken voluntarily according to the J&J. The pause in enrollment comes after Johnson & Johnson, so that's your J&J. We got our acronyms. We got ABC, J&J. I don't know, Lilly. We don't have one for Lilly yet. So comes after the Johnson & Johnson confirmed that it had voluntarily paused its phase 3 vaccine trials after a participant in the 60,000 person trial came down with an unusual and unspecified illness. An AstraZeneca trial in the U.S. has still not restarted after more than a month after issues with a couple of patients caused them to briefly pause all trials around the world, though all the others have restarted. So yes, that was AstraZeneca that we looked at first. And so I guess this is Eli Lilly is what we're up to next. So there we go. So we have a little bit of a graph here. And you have a tweet here from, quote, The Raven. I'm not familiar with this personality. This Eli Lilly antibody trial is paused because of potential safety. The NYT reporter, and this is another one, kind of a meme you got here. It says, as we noted last night, convincing the public to trust vaccines is critically important, according to a team of analysts at Goldman Sachs, who recently warned that convincing the public to accept the vaccine is an understated risk. Stocks tumbled on the news, which is hardly a surprise given that President Trump and even Dr. Fauci have hailed these types of therapeutic as critical in saving lives. So we'll continue to follow these stories on the vaccines, which I think they're going to be developing stories. And that's just where that's going to be. So I thought that was interesting. Shout out to everybody in the stream. So we're going to move on to our final piece today. And we'll go back to more politics, or can I say more original, or we'll round out here. Shout out to everybody in the stream. Thank you so much for coming in. Right Wing Angel, thank you so much. So to close out, I'm going to offer a bit of a opinion piece, in which we're going to take that from the Jerusalem Post. I thank you guys so much for all that you do and for coming in on this 11th hour stream. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, AZ Infidel. Thank you so much. So I'm going to bring you that, and then we will close out. I hope you guys are doing well on your Tuesday. See, and keep an eye on the community tab, as I will have some links to, I think I even have a video for you guys that will be loaded before, maybe within 24 hours. I'll get that one in for you. Hopefully that tab can handle that. That it can handle that that file. So we'll play little games there and see what happens. Hopefully it will be able to. So we're going to go to an opinion piece. Shout out to everybody in the stream. All right, so talk about clickbait on this one. All right, so this comes from the Jerusalem Post, and this one is titled, this is an opinion piece, and this is written by Abraham Katzman. Hate Trump? Understood. Vote for him anyway. Opinion. All right, so here we'll take this one. We vote not just for a president, but for a presidency. Trump's presidency has been, by and large, a success. So again, this is written by Abraham Katzman. This was written just a couple of days ago. Shout out to you guys in the stream. So, of course, you have pictured here, Trump's taking off his face mask as he comes out on the White House balcony to speak to supporters gathered on the South Lawn for a campaign rally at the White House on October 10th, 2020. All right. So here's your opinion piece from Mr. Katzman. I know many of you loathe U.S. President Donald Trump. He triggers your contempt, disdain, scorn, and various Trumpian synonyms still to be coined. You find him vulgar, narcissistic, dishonest, ignorant, bigoted, divisive, uncouth, misogynistic, racist, nativist, Islamophobic, anti-Semitic, and not to mention a fraud, con man, and tax cheat. You, quote, sat Shiva, end quote, mourning his unimaginable election. Your revulsion has only snowballed since. You disbelieve his every word, including, quote, and, end quote, and, quote, the, end quote, evidence or not, you remain convinced that he colluded with Russia to unfairly defeat Hillary Clinton. His lack of moral compass and coddling dictators and white supremacists sickened you. And embarrassed as you are that he is president, you are even more appalled by his voters. Did I leave anything out? Understood. I may disagree, but I certainly understand where you are coming from. I respect that this is how you not unreasonably see things. I won't try to convince you otherwise, for real. Now take a deep breath, hold your nose, and vote for Trump anyway, for real. We vote not just for a president, but for a presidency. Put aside momentarily your visceral hatred for the president. You might grudgingly concede that this presidency has been, by and large, a success, particularly for voters concerned about Israel's security and American Middle East policy. It's hard to argue with his accomplishments, too many of which we already take for granted. First, this administration truly values Israel as a loyal and helpful ally and won't publicly project any annoyance, disagreement, or frustration, quote, daylight, end quote, in the Barack Obama-Joe Biden parlance, with Israel. Such shoulder-to-shoulder loyalty to an embattled ally pays dividends. It's noticed in Tehran, Moscow, and Abu Dhabi even more than in Jerusalem. Rather than browbeating Israel into formulaic, never successful land for peace concessions, the Trump administration turned conventional peacemaking on its head. It recognized Jerusalem. Sorry, guys, a little bit of a blurb there. Okay, it recognized Jerusalem, and it's moving again. Sorry, not sure what's happening there, but I'll fix it. Shout out to everybody in the stream. Okay. Now I'll fix this if it will just stop moving. It recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital, moved the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem, fulfilling U.S. law that other administrations pushed off for decades, recognized the Golan Heights as Israeli territory, and recognized Israel's legal and historical rights in the West Bank, including repudiating the Carter administration's malicious Hansel memorandum declaring settlements illegal, all remarkably in 3+ years. While every one of these moves was criticized by Washington's wise men for, quote, inevitably angering the Arab states and streets, the Trump administration was busy brokering unprecedented peace accords between Israel, the UAE, and Bahrain. With other states soon to follow, it strengthens both the U.S. and Israel when countries understand that better relations with Israel help put them in America's good graces. Sorry for the blibs there, guys. I think maybe that something wants to play here that I've never gone with the Jerusalem Post before, but I think this is pretty well written and pretty well framed. So the Trump administration blocked relentless UN anti-Israel mischief at every turn. Compare that to the Obama-Biden perfidious parting shot at Israel. The UN Security Council Resolution 2334 declaring Israeli activity in all, quote, Palestinian, end quote, territory, including the old city of Jerusalem, a, quote, flagrant violation of international law, end quote, and of, quote, no legal validity, end quote. Did that bring peace any closer? Beware that resolution may be a ticking diplomatic bomb to be activated once the Trump administration is out of the way. In fact, Biden was reportedly the, quote, point man, end quote, in getting that resolution passed, including a phone call to, incredibly, the president of Ukraine, pressuring him to support the resolution. Trump famously tore up the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the Obama negotiated, much cheated on Iran nuclear deal that so alarmed Israel and the Sunni Arab states. Seen as nuclear appeasement, it gave Iran sanctions relief and access to some $150 billion used mostly to finance Hezbollah and Iranian-backed militias. Trump has almost single-handedly reimposed sanctions that have Iran's mullahs teetering and its Hezbollah subsidiary in financial straits. His administration engineered the elimination of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps leadership, not to mention crushing ISIS and its leaders. Biden has pledged to rejoin the JCPOA. Trump's domestic accomplishments also spawned foreign policy benefits. Trump cut taxes an astounding amount of red tape, stimulating immediate economic growth and record employment pre-COVID, which outpaced every one of Obama-Biden's sluggish 8 years. This especially fostered an American energy production boom. The U.S. is now the world's top producer of both oil and natural gas, and incredibly, a net oil exporter. About 2/3 of that energy is produced through fracking. Biden advocates banning and severely curtailing fracking. The effect of energy independence on American national security and foreign policy cannot be overstated. Compare OPEC's monopolistic leverage wielded to the detriment of the US and Israel during the 1970s embargo to today. We have Persian Gulf kingdoms are de-radicalizing, diversifying their formerly one-dimensional economies, seeking greater cooperation with the US and finding peace and normalization with Israel to be in their interest. This is quite a record for any administration, no matter how distasteful the president. On the flip side, Biden himself may be okay, though not great, regarding Israel's support, but his team is composed primarily of old Obama hands and Senator Bernie Sanders advisors who are frighteningly unsympathetic to Israel as much as his party. How much confidence is warranted that Biden will really be the one commanding Israel policy for 4 years? Recoil, if you must, from Trump's tweeting and speaking style, gag from his personality, and wallow in disgust at his pervasive Trumpness. I get it. Still consider the alternative, then force yourself to vote to keep this solid administration in place. All right, so that is fully loaded. Very interesting assertion from Mr. Katzman and the Jerusalem Post. But the thing about it is that the left and the progressives will never acknowledge that, and neither would the technocrats or the globalists. I mean, it's all over Europe. I mean, it's all there. Shout out to everybody in the stream. I appreciate you guys for coming in for this 11th hour stream. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Shout out to Old Head Deuce. So I'm going to remove that from the screen. I appreciate you guys so much for coming in, and I hope that you guys can have a great rest of your evening, or your late afternoon, early evening, later evening where you are. So shout out to everybody in the stream. Shout out to Old Head Juice for coming in. Thank you guys for taking care of the well, it's early evening, and it's later for some people. Some people are already on the 9 o'clock hour, Old Head. We can count on you. Count on you. Shout out to you. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I appreciate you guys for all you do. I do apologize for the no show yesterday. And of course, you guys stay in the fight wherever you are, and keep your eyes open, and continue to be your best fact checker. And of course, I look forward to seeing you guys around. And have a great Tuesday.